Shalom, shalom. I'm Rabbi Yehudah, and today I'd like to talk to you about the term Hebrew Israelite, where it comes from, what it means, the different objections to it, and what it means for halakhic Jews today. Now, there have been many people who've asked me to address this issue over the years, and please forgive me for taking so long to address it, but here we are. And it is one of our goals of our organization, the West African Jews of the Diaspora, to educate our community and to address issues that concern them the most. We hope to tackle many concerns and discussions as they come, and hopefully in the future we'll prioritize more which issues are more important halakhically versus the others. Nonetheless, we are here to educate. So, without further ado, we will talk about the term Hebrew Israelite. The term Hebrew Israelite is, of course, not found in the Torah, coherently together like that. It's not a combination term. Of course, you see the word Hebrew and you see the word Israelite. Now, many years ago when I began to practice the way of Torah and learn in commandment keepers in New York, or Harlem, New York, I was told about the term Hebrew Israelite. And one of the explanations that were given to me during that time was that the reason why it was, or people called themselves Hebrew, or the community called themselves Hebrew, to pay homage to Avraham Avinu. And then, of course, Israelite, to include the fact that we also come from our forefather Yaakov Avinu, who is Jacob, our forefather. So the two terms combine together to mean that we, or our community, believe that we are descendants of both from Avraham Avinu and all the way to Yaakov, to connect the two together. That was one of the explanations of why the term Hebrew Israelite was coined. Now, for many of you who have this objection to the term or scoff at the term because the term is not found together in Torah, I think you need to think again. Because if you think about it, most Jewish sects or organizations or communities around the world have nomenclatures for their own respective communities, and they are not found in the Torah. For instance, Sephardi Jews. We know the word Sephardi is found in Tanakh, but you don't see the combination of Sephardi Jews in Tanakh. Neither do you see a combination of Ashkenazi Jew in Torah or Tanakh. You don't see Ethiopian Jew, if you may, in the Torah, even though they don't call themselves Ethiopian Jews. You do see Beth Israel or Beth Israel in the Tanakh, but you don't see many of these terms that you find today in the respective Jewish communities around the world combine together these combination terms like Mizrahi Jew or whatever. You don't see them. So to scoff at the term Hebrew Israelite because it is not found as a combination in Torah is injustice and disingenuous regarding that nomenclature, the legitimacy of that nomenclature. However, I do have a pet peeve about the term Hebrew Israelite, because at one time or another, the term Hebrew Israelite actually belonged to a specific group of West African Jews of the diaspora. And they didn't call themselves simply or exclusively by the term Hebrew Israelites. They also call themselves Black Jews. And this group was known as the Black Jews of Harlem. Originally, as I was told by the leaders of the communities, Gabbai David Lee, who was the Gabbai of Rabbi Matthew, blessed memory, may both their memories be for blessing, told me years ago, a couple of decades ago, when he was still alive, that they always call themselves Jews, black Jews, and they also call themselves Hebrews. The term Hebrew Israelite came much later. The term Hebrew Israelite came from this respective group who were Jews, who identified themselves as Jews, who followed a halakhic path and the Masorah of Israel. There have been documentaries and documents produced, or even people have attempted to author books to portray the community in Harlem. Some were very dubious portrayals and very scathing type of perspectives on the community in Harlem, and others were more accurate and actually praised the efforts of this Jewish community. However, this Jewish community in Harlem has sister communities, and these sister communities, who were Jews, called themselves Hebrew Israelite. Now, to make a long story short, the term Hebrew Israelite was hijacked by other groups who did not have the authority, neither did they have the Masorah of Israel. They were not the Ba'alei Torah. In other words, they did not become masters of the Torah that was passed. Of course, the master of Torah, or becoming a master of Torah, means that you were handed down the traditions of Torah from generations in the past. So there were a lot of people who formed groups who learned that there were black Jews, identified with black Jews because they were African Americans or Caribbean Americans or whatever, and formed their own little cliques, or, if you may, camps, and hence hijacked the term Hebrew Israelites and used it for themselves. Whereas the term Hebrew Israelite originally belonged to Jews who were so-called black Jews, who identified themselves as the Jews of Harlem. And so here we are today with a lot of groups, cults, if you may. Some groups who develop themselves with acronyms of the alphabets, some call themselves A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I don't know. But you have these groups who are now identified and have taken on the name Hebrew Israelite. Now, don't get it twisted. I am not disenfranchising any individual or any individual's claim to being perhaps a descendant of Israel. We have people who, because of the history of Jews being dispersed throughout the four corners of the earth, were forced into different situations, one of them being the transatlantic slave trade, and, of course, like the crypto Jews, became forced into believing in a religion or following a religion that didn't belong to their forefathers. And so the B'nai Anosim, the term B'nai Anosim, which you'll see in a few seconds, refers to people who were forced, or Jews that were forced into another belief system. And of course, because of the circumstance, would sometimes lose their identity or lose what it means to be a Jew. So I'm not going to disenfranchise some African Americans who may legitimately have a lineage or some type of Jewish ancestry that brought them into certain groups. And unfortunately, many of these groups aren't Jewish groups. These are cult systems. These are different people who brought along with their beliefs and philosophy and their spirituality a lot of the Christian ideology or the Moorish ideologies that are foreign to the Masorah of Israel, foreign to the traditions and teachings of Israel throughout the millennia. So now you have these groups, and you have people who are also may not have any connection to ancient Israel. They just identify as being black people who believe that because they're black and the original Israelites in antiquity who are dark complexion, they now align themselves and believe that all original Jews today are black, being totally ignorant of historical factors and historical events. So it is unfortunate, though, that the Jewish groups that originally maintained or had the nomenclature of Hebrew Israelites did not stand up and defend the reputation of these particular groups that were legitimate Jews, black Jews or Jews of Harlem. And now the term, because of the hijacking of other groups who had nothing to do with the traditions and teachings of the Jews of Harlem or the West African Jews of America who formed communities, even like the communities in Chicago, was a part of the movement called the Ethiopian Hebrew Congregation. These were the original Jews or black Jews that held the term Hebrew, and then their sister or daughter communities formed, and they also adopted the term Israelite with the term Hebrew. These groups failed to stand up, or at least to fight back or push back in time to quell the confusion. Now the term Hebrew Israelite is scoffed at, and rightly so. It is an embarrassment. It is something that represents something totally different than it originally represented. It is now a term where even the federal government look at these people or groups or camps, if you may, as a terrorist group because of the rhetoric that comes from people who call themselves Hebrew Israelites. So be as it may, for all of you, all of the groups out there who are legitimately Israel, who are within the community of the black Jews of Harlem or the outskirts of them, whether you're in Chicago, LA, or wherever, New York more particularly, that's where many of you are, I urge you to disavow the name Hebrew Israelite. It is unfortunate that we have to come to this point, but it is necessary. Because now the term Hebrew Israelite has gotten a bad reputation. And we are warned in the Torah or also in the writings that a bad reputation is something to run away from. As a matter of fact, we had talked about, so we are told in the Tanakh that a great reputation is rather to be chosen than great many riches. It is also taught that there are only three things we take with us when we leave and go into the Olam Haba, into the next life. And that is, one, your reputation, your deeds, and your neshama. Of course, your reputation is built upon your deeds. And this is how you are awarded or this is how you are given your reward in the life to come. Because of the misfulls or the lack of the misfulls you've done, you will be accountable for your deeds. And of course, your reputation is based on your deeds. And protecting your good name is very important. And your neshama, of course, is your soul. So these three things are very important in life. And so the term Hebrew Israelite is now at the point where if any legitimate Jewish community around the world hears it, because it has now flooded the social media, more particularly the YouTube channels, the term Hebrew Israelite is now mud. This is my personal opinion. And it behooves our community, the West African Jews of the diaspora, to now disavow that. Or, if you may, put on arms, figuratively speaking, flood the internet and disavow all of those groups who use that term for wicked purposes, and to show the world that they aren't really Hebrew Israelites. Is it too late? It is my personal opinion that it is. Whatever you do, and this goes out to the real Hebrews, those who follow the Masorah of Israel, those who read from the Torah, those who knows how to put on the Tali Gadol, those who has that Aron Kodesh, those who understands halakha. Those who understand halakha, these communities I am pushing, the community that I represent, I am putting it on your shoulders to either disavow or to come together and fight it. With that being said, to all of you, the rest of everyone else who look and see on the internet and watch what's going on with these groups of people who call themselves Hebrew Israelites, I could tell you for a surety that this was not the representation of the original Hebrew Israelites. If you have any more questions or any comments, if you have any concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm Rabbi Yehudah of the West African Jews of the Diaspora. And we will do our best to address those issues, address those concerns, and bring the halakhic understanding to those issues so that we can live according to the desires of the Creator, the Ezrat Hashem. If you like this video, subscribe below. You'll be notified whenever we have another video addressing any other issue or concern that may affect you and the Jewish community and ultimately the world. Shalom Uvracha.